Welcome to January Pet Resort, where pet luxury has never been more affordable. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today we are going to be continuing our conversation about what is on a bag of dog food. Last week we were talking about the ingredients and the ingredient list, so if you didn't hear that, definitely go back. There's a lot of really good information on that. Today we are going to be talking about the guaranteed analysis. Today is October 2nd. You guys will be listening to this on October 6th. We do want to comment on Hurricane Helene and everyone who has been affected, not only in Florida, Georgia, all the way up through North Carolina and Tennessee. The devastation that has happened to people and pets is astronomical. Our thoughts and prayers are with everyone that has been affected by it, whether it is people that are living there, people who have family that are living there. You are all in our thoughts and our prayers every day. The guaranteed analysis provides information. There's 4 different levels of ingredients on the bag that is required to be on that bag of dog food. Those are going to be your crude protein, your crude fat, your crude fiber, and your moisture. Now, when they're talking about crude protein, fat, and fiber, the term crude is not a term that relates to the quality of the product that's in there. It's actually the method that is used to determine the nutrient content of that in your pet's food. Protein content is determined by analyzing the levels of nitrogen and fat in the food to determine the lipids that are present. So when you're comparing your current dog food to another dog food you might be switching to, or you're comparing 2 different types of dog foods, one of the good places to look is going to be at your crude protein, crude fat, fiber, and moisture. But to get a accurate comparison, you have to do a little bit of math work. So I am looking at the same 3 foods that we looked at last week, and I'm looking at their guaranteed analysis. On top of your crude fat, crude fiber, crude protein, and moisture, there's going to be other ingredients listed in the guaranteed analysis. The reason why there's other things there is because that particular dog food is claiming it's good for lubricating the joints. So you're going to see maybe glucosamine in that guaranteed analysis, or it actually says it has omega-6s or omega-3s, because they're claiming that you're getting something from the dog food and they need to back up that claim. So however much is in that food is going to be guaranteed. The one dog food we looked at last week, which was the middle of the road and the higher end dog foods, they say something about joint health. So on their guaranteed analysis, they actually list glucosamine. There is a minimum amount to back up our claims that this dog food is good for joint health. The same thing if they're talking about skin and coat health, a lot of times that has to do with your omega-3s and omega-6s. So again, those 2 foods that we talked about last week, they have a minimum amount for both your omega-3 and omega-6s. So they just need to back that up. We're saying it's good for joint health. This is why it has glucosamine in it. It has chondroitin in it. This is why we're saying it's good for joint health. If they don't say anything on the bag about that, then they don't have to put it in the guaranteed analysis. So this is an interesting one because the 2 higher ones actually say omega-3 and omega-6. The lower dog food, it's enriched with omega-6 fatty acids and zinc. So on their guaranteed analysis, they have omega-6 fatty acid listed as linoleic acid. And then they do have zinc listed on there as well. That's why there's always things that some list and some don't. It's because they have to prove what they're saying on the other side of the bag of dog food. So when you are sitting and comparing dog foods, if you really want nuts and bolts comparison, you need to break down the guaranteed analysis into a dry matter basis.
So you really have to know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Or you really have to understand that type of science or math.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
I would need help.
So the guaranteed analysis dry matter basis. What this means is this is the absence of moisture. So in the guaranteed analysis that are required is moisture. So we're going to look at the minimum dog food we looked at last week. That one has a moisture content of 12%. So you take 100% and you minus 12%. And what do you have left? You have 88%. So now you take that 88%. It has a crude protein of 21%. So I'm going to take 21% divided by 88%. That gets me my dry matter amount of 23.8% of crude protein. So 23.8% of that bag of dog food is crude protein. Okay. So if we do the same thing with our next bag of dry food, that one has a 10% moisture. So we have 90 90% dry matter. We take their crude protein percentage, which is 24%. We take 24%, we divide it by 90, we get 26.6%. Now we can compare it. Now we know that in that lower price point bag of dog food, there's 23.8% protein. In the next one up, there's 26.6% protein. So we've got a little bit more protein. If you look at the equation that we're looking at right now, this can actually let you compare dry food to wet food, because wet food is going to have a 70% moisture content. This is getting it down so that you can pull out the moisture and you can compare apples to apples. Our next one up for the middle of the line was 26.6%. Now, if we look at that $99 one and we do the exact same calculations, we're looking at 30.7%. So we know the difference between them is a little bit more. The highest one has 30.7% protein. The next one down has 26.6%, and then your lowest has your 23.3%. Now you can go through that and do that with your crude protein, your crude fat, and your crude fiber. And that way you can really break it down and say, okay, which one's going to be best for my dog when you're looking at the guaranteed analysis, because all of them have a different moisture content. So if you're looking at just the percentage listed on the guaranteed analysis, your moisture percentage is different for each bag, because your lower price point dog food has more moisture in it, which means it has more water than your highest one, which has less moisture. So there's more substance to the food and your weight isn't figured out by moisture being added. So you use the exact same equation. Again, you want to take your moisture content, you want to subtract that percentage from 100%. That gets your dry matter. You're going to take that dry matter and you're going to divide your crude protein into your dry matter to get your percentage of how much crude protein, crude fat, or crude fiber is on a dry matter basis. That's how you're going to be able to compare each particular brand of dog food with one another as to what's going to best fit for your dog. So if you have a dog who is a little less active, an older dog, or just a couch potato, one that doesn't go out, or your lifestyle can't get your dog out on those daily walks, you want to look for something that has a little less fat in it, because the more fat you eat, the heavier you could possibly be.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, a food that would say this is weight management would have a less crude fat.
It should have a less crude fat, which if you take the equation we just talked about and look at the back of your bag of dog food, you can now actually compare to figure out if that food is the best food for your dog with the health concern it has, because now you know that you can break it down, then compare. Though it might have a lower fat, maybe the quality of protein could be better if you went with something that doesn't necessarily have to be labeled.
I'm feeling more intelligent each week.
I know, right? When we're looking at the crude fat, the bag that is our lowest price point has 11.8%, and this is on a dry matter basis. The next one up has 15.5%, and then our highest one has 19.7%. Now remember, this is not for your toppers, it's not for your treats, it's not for any of that, because they're not technically complete and balanced food. This is for your complete and balanced dog food. Treats as well. Treats are not complete and balanced foods. Please don't feed just treats. Please make sure that your dog is getting complete and balanced food, not just being fed treats. Anyway, I think we're going to wrap it up here. Like I said in the beginning, our thoughts and prayers are with everyone who has been affected by Hurricane Helene.
Definitely.
And we hope for a speedy rebuild and recovery. Go ahead and flip that bag over, look at that guaranteed analysis, listen back to this podcast, find that equation that we talked about to figuring out your dry matter basis. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we will see you next time.